High Commander Zixtal stood before the crystalline viewport of the Dominion's flagship, Eternal Perfection, his iridescent scales reflecting the light of a dying star. The execution of yet another defiant species was about to begin. Below, the planet Varix Iui's once pristine oceans boiled under the Dominion's gravitational weapons, a punishment for their refusal to submit to Zarkak's authority. Another primitive civilization learns its place. Sub-Commander Rentak observed, his voice carrying the musical resonance typical of their species. The 97th this cycle. Zixtal's inner membranes flickered in mild annoyance. The number is irrelevant. Perfection demands compliance. He turned away from the viewport, his crystalline armor chiming softly as he moved across the bridge. Every surface of the massive command center reflected the Zarkak's philosophy. Geometric precision, crystalline clarity, and absolute order. The ship's quantum processors hummed in perfect harmony, maintaining the complex calculations that kept the Dominion's fleet in their mathematically optimal formations. 10,000 years of technological evolution had refined their methods to the point where warfare had become an equation, conquest reduced to a formula. "High Commander," a tactical officer called out, their voice disrupting the bridge's perfect acoustics. "Scout vessel Prismatic Truth has encountered an anomaly in Section 847B. Zixtal's secondary hearts barely registered a change in rhythm. Anomalies were merely deviations to be corrected, imperfections to be smoothed away. "Display," he commanded. The holographic display materialized, showing a region of space at the edge of Dominion territory. The data streams indicated a newly discovered spacefaring race, their energy signatures crude but detectable. Initial scans showed primitive faster-than-light technology, weaponry based on crude particle acceleration, and hull designs that violated dozens of optimal engineering principles. Humans, Rentak read from the preliminary analysis. From a system they call Sol. Their civilization spans merely 50 light-years. His tone carried the familiar note of dismissal that accompanied all first contact reports. Zixtal began composing the standard subjugation protocols when the feed from Prismatic Truth suddenly flared. The scout ship's perfect crystalline structure fragmented in a cascade of energy that defied their models. In the next instant, the vessel simply ceased to exist. For the first time in recorded history, silence fell on the bridge of a Dominion flagship. "Replay," Zixtal ordered, his voice carrying an unfamiliar harmonic. The scene played out again, but this time he noticed something. Just before the destruction, there was a power signature, crude, chaotic, but undeniably deliberate. These humans hadn't just destroyed a Dominion vessel, they'd done it with a weapon that shouldn't have been capable of penetrating their defenses. "Analysis," he demanded. "Impossible to determine, High Commander," the science officer responded. Their attack pattern followed no known mathematical progression. "Our predictive algorithms failed to." Silence. Zixtal's scales shifted to deep purple, a color not seen on a Zarkak's commander in millennia. "Deploy the 7th Battle Group. Standard Conquest Formation." As orders rippled through the fleet, Zixtal returned to the viewport. The dying star below had finally collapsed, its end calculated to the microsecond by Dominion computers. But for the first time in his 300-year existence, the High Commander felt something alien stirring in his consciousness, an emotion his species had engineered away eons ago. Uncertainty. "High Commander," Rentak ventured carefully, "should we not simply dispatch a planetary cleansing force? These humans are clearly barbaric, using chaos itself as a weapon." "No." Zixtal's scales rippled. "They fired first. They chose to announce themselves with an act of defiance. Such imperfection cannot be allowed to spread." He turned to face his crew, his crystalline armor catching the light of newly born stars. "We will remind the galaxy why the Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years. Deploy all available forces to Section 847B." The orders went out, and the perfect machinery of the Dominion's military began to move. None of them recognized the irony in their response, that in their rush to crush this unpredictable new species, they were following the same predictable patterns they had used for millennia. The first pebble had struck the crystal mountain, and hairline fractures were already beginning to spread. Captain Jackson Mitchell stood in the U.S. Nemesis's Combat Information Center, watching the holographic display with the intensity of a predator. The destroyed alien scout ship's debris field sparkled like diamond dust against the void. He hadn't wanted to fire first, but when the crystalline vessel started scanning their quantum shielding frequencies, his gut told him they weren't dealing with peaceful explorers. "Talk to me, Rivera," he called to his science officer. "What are we looking at?" Lieutenant Maria Rivera's fingers danced across her console, her dark eyes reflecting streams of data. "Their tech is beautiful, Captain. Every component perfectly aligned at the atomic level. But that's what doesn't make sense. There's no redundancy, no variation. It's like they've never heard of backup systems." Mitchell nodded, running his hand through his graying hair. 20 years of naval service had taught him that perfection was the enemy of survival. His last ship, the Jakarta, had survived the Titan incident precisely because of its jury-rigged backup systems and unconventional modifications. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Chen at Tactical snapped to attention. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL. Energy signatures massive, bigger than anything in our database. The holographic display erupted with new contacts. Alien ships emerged in a perfect geometric pattern, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight like massive prisms. The formation was flawless, each vessel precisely positioned relative to its neighbors. "Their formation," Mitchell murmured, stepping closer to the display. "Rivera, run it through the pattern recognition software. Something about this feels familiar." "Already on it, sir," Rivera's console chirped. "You're not going to believe this. Their movement patterns match old chess algorithms, specifically the ones from the early quantum computing era. Beautiful, complex, but predictable," Mitchell finished. He'd spent his academy years hacking those same algorithms, proving they could be beaten by introducing controlled chaos into the system. "They're flying their ships like computers play chess." The alien fleet continued its advance, their formation shifting with mathematical precision. It was intimidating, and it was exactly what Mitchell had hoped to see. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered, a grim smile playing at his lips. "And get me a secure line to command. They need to see this." As klaxons blared throughout the ship, Admiral Cooper's weathered face appeared on the main screen. "Mitchell, tell me you haven't started an interstellar war." "Can't do that, sir. But I can tell you how we're going to win it." Mitchell gestured to the tactical display. "These aliens, they're technological marvels. But they've engineered away something crucial: adaptation. Their ships move like a computer thinks, not like soldiers fight." Cooper's eyes narrowed as he studied the data feed. "You're betting a lot on that theory, Captain." "Permission to demonstrate, sir." A long pause. "You lost your last ship pulling crazy stunts, Mitchell. And saved Earth in the process." Mitchell's voice carried the weight of certainty. "Trust me, Admiral. These aliens need to learn that humanity isn't just another primitive species to be conquered." Cooper sighed, but there was a glint in his eye. "Show me what the Nemesis can do, Captain. But for God's sake, try to keep this ship in one piece." Cooper out. Mitchell turned to his crew, seeing the mix of anticipation and nervous energy on their faces. They were the best Earth had to offer, not because they were perfect, but because they knew how to improvise, adapt, and overcome. "Deploy the quantum torpedoes," he ordered, "but not how they're expecting. Chen, remember that trick we practiced? The one that violated 3 different naval regulations." Chen's face lit up with understanding. "The drunken boxer maneuver, sir. Engineering said it could tear the ship apart. Could is not the same as will." Mitchell watched as the alien fleet continued their perfect advance. "Sometimes you have to roll the dice. Helm, power down all non-essential systems. Let's show these aliens why humanity's greatest strength is our ability to embrace chaos. As the Nemesis systems went dark, Mitchell thought about all the perfect, predictable responses the alien fleet might make. They were about to learn that in the great game of survival, perfection was just another word for vulnerability. The dance was about to begin. "They're preparing their main weapon," Rivera reported, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the Nemesis bridge. The alien fleet had arranged itself into a perfect dodecahedron formation, each crystalline ship positioning itself with microscopic precision. Energy readings are off the charts. Mitchell watched as space itself seemed to bend between the alien vessels. "Let me guess. They're channeling power through their entire fleet network." "Like one giant circuit, sir. The computational power alone must be their weakness," Mitchell interrupted, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. "Chen, time for that drunken boxer. All power to structural integrity fields. Kill everything else." The Nemesis's lights dimmed, then went dark. Emergency lighting cast the bridge in a red glow as system after system went offline. The mighty Warship, Earth's most advanced vessel, began to drift like a derelict. "Sir," Chen's fingers hovered over his console, "if we're wrong about their targeting systems." "We're not." Mitchell gripped his command chair. "Their whole society is built on predictable patterns. They're looking for power signatures, shield harmonics, targeting solutions. They're not looking for a dead ship." Through the view screen, the alien formation began to glow with accumulated energy. Their planet cracker weapon, capable of shattering worlds, was designed to counter any known defense. But the Nemesis wasn't defending. "Now," Mitchell barked. The Nemesis fusion core roared to life. Before the alien fleet could adjust their perfect formation, the human warship was already inside their geometric pattern, its trajectory resembling nothing so much as a drunken dancer at a stellar bar. "Multiple targeting solutions," Chen called out. "They're trying to lock on, but their targeting algorithms can't predict our course." Mitchell allowed himself a grim smile. "Because there is no course. Rivera, your turn. Show them why we installed that crazy quantum torpedo modification." Rivera's hands flew across her console. Torpedoes away, executing random walk pattern. The Nemesis's quantum torpedoes, instead of following standard attack vectors, began to bounce and ricochet off the ship's own shield harmonics. Each torpedo followed a completely unpredictable path, guided by quantum uncertainty itself. On the tactical display, the alien fleet's perfect formation began to fracture. Their attempts to track multiple chaotic threats forced them to break their energy channeling pattern. "Their weapon network is destabilizing," Chen reported, excitement creeping into his voice. The energy feedback. The space between alien ships erupted in a cascade of crystalline explosions. Their attempt to maintain formation while tracking chaotic targets had created fatal flaws in their power distribution network. "Target their flagship," Mitchell ordered. "Right up their command and control axis." The Nemesis pirouetted through the chaos like a ballet dancer through a crystal garden, each movement deliberately unpredictable. More alien ships shattered, their perfect crystalline structures proving catastrophically vulnerable to asymmetric shock waves. "Sir," Rivera's voice cut through the chaos. "We're being hailed. I think. It's like they don't even have a protocol for direct communication during battle." "Put it through." The alien commander's image appeared on screen, its crystalline scales shifting in what Mitchell recognized as barely controlled agitation. You violate all laws of combat," the translator rendered its musical speech. "Your tactics are an affront to perfection itself." Mitchell leaned forward in his chair. "That's humanity's secret, Commander. We learned long ago that perfection is the enemy of survival. Evolution favors adaptation, not optimization. You will be eradicated," the alien commander declared. "The Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years. We cannot be defeated by chaos. Can't be defeated by chaos." Mitchell's smile was predatory now. Watch us. Chen, fire everything we've got. Random dispersal pattern Delta. The space around the Nemesis erupted in a dazzling display of quantum torpedoes and energy weapons, each following paths that defied prediction. The alien commander's image vanished as its flagship attempted to compensate for attacks coming from seemingly impossible angles. As the battle reached its climax, Mitchell thought about the irony. These aliens had spent millennia perfecting their technology, their tactics, their very society. But in doing so, they'd engineered away the very thing that had allowed humanity to survive countless challenges, the ability to embrace chaos, to adapt, to do the unexpected. The perfect crystal was about to meet the hammer of human unpredictability, and the galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of battle hung in space like a glittering cloud of broken dreams. Crystalline fragments of what had once been the pride of the Zarkak's fleet drifted past the Nemesis's viewports, refracting starlight in a million different directions. "Damage report," Mitchell called out, pulling himself up from where the last explosion had thrown him. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye, but his focus never wavered. "Port shields at 12%, Chen reported, his tactical station sparking. "Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, emergency containment holding. 2 quantum torpedo launchers offline." "But sir," he looked up with a grin, "we killed their entire command and control structure. The remaining enemy ships are completely uncoordinated." Rivera's voice cut through the chaos of damage control reports. "Captain, you need to see this. The quantum interference patterns from their shattered ships. They're carrying data. Their hulls weren't just armor. They were storage devices." Mitchell limped to her station, studying the cascading streams of alien code. "Can you decode it?" "Already done." "It's..." Rivera's eyes widened. "It's their entire tactical database. Every formation, every strategy they've used for the past 1,000 years. And something else. Distress signals. Not from the Zarkaks, but from their subjects. Hundreds of species, all calling for help, all seeing hope for the first time in generations." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They hadn't just won a battle. They'd cracked open a vault of secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Sir," Chen's voice was urgent now. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements. The Dominion is mobilizing everything they have. Thousands of ships, all heading this way." Mitchell straightened, ignoring the pain from his injuries. "Send everything we've learned to command. Every detail about their formations, their weaknesses, their technological vulnerabilities. And get me a channel to Admiral Cooper." The Admiral's face appeared on screen, looking both elated and concerned. "Mitchell, you beautiful bastard. You just kicked the biggest hornet's nest in the galaxy." "Sir, request permission to implement Protocol Omega." Cooper's expression darkened. "That's a scorched earth protocol, Captain. We've never used it outside of simulations. With respect, Admiral, that's exactly why it'll work. The Dominion's entire strategy relies on predicting their opponent's responses. They'd never faced an enemy willing to rewrite the rules of engagement mid-battle." A long pause. "You lost your last ship implementing an untested protocol." Mitchell's voice was steel. "And I'll lose this one too if it means giving humanity a fighting chance. We've proven their weakness, their inability to handle chaos. Now we need to exploit it on a scale they can't possibly prepare for." Cooper studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Protocol Omega authorized. All ships in the sector are under your tactical command. Show these crystal bastards why they should have left humanity alone." The channel closed, and Mitchell turned to his crew. "Rivera, broadcast everything we've learned on all frequencies. Every subject species of the Dominion needs to know their oppressors can bleed." He moved to the tactical display, where the massive Dominion fleet was already beginning to form their perfect patterns. "Chen, prepare to transmit our new tactical protocols to all Earth ships in range. We're about to rewrite the book on space warfare." "Sir," Rivera called out, "we're getting responses, not just from Earth ships. Alien vessels, dozens of them, breaking away from Dominion control groups. They're asking to join us. Mitchell watched as new contacts appeared on the tactical display, their signatures irregular and diverse. Ships of all shapes and sizes, each representing a species that had suffered under the Dominion's crystalline boot. The perfect order of the galaxy was about to shatter, and from its fragments, something new would emerge. "Send them our tactical data," he ordered. "All of it. Let's show the Dominion what happens when you push too far, try to control too much. Let's show them why diversity, why chaos itself, is the universe's greatest strength." The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity had just changed all the rules. Incoming transmission from the Vextal Resistance, Chen announced, his console now modified with alien communication protocols. Their fleet successfully replicated our drunk missile maneuver. 3 Dominion battle groups destroyed in the Carina sector. Mitchell nodded, studying the tactical overview that now encompassed several spiral arms of the galaxy. The Nemesis had become more than just a warship. It was a mobile academy of asymmetric warfare. The bridge crew had worked around the clock, teaching their new allies how to fight like humans. "Show me," he ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing recording feeds from multiple battles across the galaxy. A swarm of sleek, organic-looking Vextal ships performed erratic maneuvers that would have made any human pilot proud. Their biological technology, once considered primitive by the Dominion, proved perfectly suited for unpredictable combat patterns. "They're learning fast," Rivera commented, her station now surrounded by alien data crystals, gifts from grateful species sharing their knowledge of Dominion technology. The Kithera have even modified their plasma weapons to create random interference patterns. They're calling it organized chaos technology. Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. "Any word from the Mechri?" "Better than word, sir." Chen's fingers danced across his console, bringing up a new tactical feed. "Watch this." The display showed a massive Dominion dreadnought, its crystalline structure gleaming in the light of 3 suns. As it attempted to form up with its battle group, dozens of tiny ships suddenly appeared around it. The Mechri, master shipwrights who had been forced to build the Dominion's fleets for centuries, had turned their intimate knowledge of Zarkak's engineering against their former masters. The tiny ships fired what appeared to be simple mining lasers, but they struck precise points in the dreadnought's crystal matrix. The massive vessel shattered like glass, its perfect structure becoming its perfect weakness. "They've been waiting millennia for this," Rivera said softly. "All of them have." The moment was interrupted by a priority alert. Admiral Cooper's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. "Mitchell, we got a problem. The Dominion just hit Earth Colony Delta 7. They're changing tactics." Mitchell's jaw tightened. "Casualties?" "None. They evacuated in time, using your chaos protocols for the civilian ships. But this represents a shift in Dominion strategy. They're learning, Captain. Slowly, imperfectly, but learning." "Good," Mitchell said, surprising everyone on the bridge. "That's exactly what we wanted." Cooper's eyebrows rose. "Explain." Mitchell moved to the tactical display, highlighting multiple battle zones across the galaxy. Every time they try to adapt, they'd follow patterns, predictable patterns. They can't help themselves. It's encoded in their very society. Each adaptation is like a new chess algorithm, more complex, but still beatable if you know how to introduce the right kind of chaos. "Sir," Rivera's voice carried an urgent note. "Massive energy spike in the Orion Spur. The Dominion. They're deploying something new." The tactical display shifted, showing a massive crystalline structure unlike anything they'd seen before. It was a perfect dodecahedron, the size of a small moon, its facets reflecting the light of dying stars. "Their ultimate weapon," Mitchell breathed. "They're desperate enough to use it." "How can you be sure?" Cooper asked. "Because it's perfect," Mitchell replied, already formulating a plan. "Too perfect. Look at the energy patterns, the structural symmetry. They've built the ultimate expression of their philosophy, a weapon that represents absolute order." He turned to his crew, seeing the same understanding dawn in their eyes. And that's exactly why we're going to beat it. Chen, send word to all allied fleets. Tell them to prepare for Protocol Omega Black. Rivera, I need everything you've learned about their crystal technology. We're going to show the Dominion why perfection is the ultimate vulnerability. As the orders went out, Mitchell watched the massive crystalline weapon begin its ponderous advance. The Dominion thought they were adapting, learning to fight like humans, but they had merely created a larger, more perfect target. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their understanding that true strength lies in imperfection. The massive crystalline weapon, which the crew had dubbed the Perfectionist, hung in space like a geometric god. Its surfaces reflected the light of 1,000 exploding ships as the combined rebel fleet engaged its defensive screen. Analysis, Mitchell demanded, watching another Vextal cruiser shatter under the weapon's impossibly precise energy beams. Rivera's hands flew across her console, alien crystals pulsing with data. It's beautiful, sir, and terrifying. They've created a quantum computational matrix across its entire structure. Every facet is both a weapon and a processor. It's trying to calculate every possible combat scenario simultaneously. How many ships have we lost? Mitchell's voice was tight. 47 in the last hour, Chen reported grimly. The weapon predicts movement patterns with 99.99% accuracy. Even our chaos protocols are becoming predictable, Mitchell finished. He stood, moving to the tactical display where hundreds of friendly signatures danced in desperate patterns around the massive crystalline structure. Because we've been teaching everyone to fight like humans. And now, they've learned to predict chaos itself, Rivera whispered. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Dominion had done the impossible. They turned their greatest weakness into a strength. By studying hundreds of battles against unpredictable enemies, they'd created a weapon that could calculate and counter even randomness itself. Sir, Chen's voice carried an edge of desperation. The Kith-era fleet is requesting permission to attempt a suicide run. They say their plasma interference patterns might. Deny it. Mitchell cut him off, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. Tell them to fall back to position Delta. I think. A slow smile spread across his face. I think we've been looking at this all wrong. He turned to his crew. Rivera, what happens when you try to calculate every possible outcome? She blinked. The computational requirements increase exponentially with each new variable. Even their quantum matrix would have limits. Her eyes widened with sudden understanding. Exactly. Mitchell's grin turned predatory. Chen, get me a channel to all allied ships, and pray our translators can handle what I'm about to propose. Moments later, Mitchell addressed the combined fleet, his words being converted into dozens of alien languages. This is Captain Mitchell. The enemy has adapted to chaos. They've learned to predict our unpredictability. So we're going to show them something they've never seen before. Perfect order. Confused responses flooded the comm channels. Mitchell continued, all ships, form up in standard Dominion battle formations. Exact spacing. Precise angles. Perfect geometry. Make it look like we've learned their way is superior. Sir, Chen protested, that's exactly what they're best at countering. Is it? Mitchell's eyes gleamed. Their weapon is designed to predict and counter chaos. What happens when we show it perfect order, and then have every ship introduce chaos at precisely the same moment? Understanding dawned across the bridge. The weapon's quantum matrix would be forced to suddenly shift from calculating orderly patterns to processing countless chaotic variables simultaneously. Send the timing protocols, Mitchell ordered. Every ship fires their most destructive weapons at exactly the same moment, each in a completely random direction. Not calculated chaos. True, unpredictable chaos. Let's give that quantum matrix an infinity of possibilities to calculate. The Allied fleet moved with uncharacteristic precision, forming geometric patterns that would have made any Zarkax commander proud. The Perfectionist's defenses adjusted, its energy patterns shifting to counter the expected attack vectors of a conventional formation. Energy spike, Rivera called out. They're powering up their main weapon array. All ships. Mitchell's voice was calm now. On my mark. The crystalline weapon's surfaces began to glow with gathered power, its quantum matrix calculating the perfect counter to a conventional assault. 3. Across the fleet, gunners prepared their weapons, each choosing their own random trajectory. 2. The weapon's glow reached blinding intensity. 1. The quantum matrix hummed with absolute certainty of victory. Now, in a single instant, perfect order transformed into pure chaos. Thousands of ships fired in thousands of random directions. The quantum matrix, suddenly forced to calculate an infinite number of possibilities, experienced what could only be described as a computational aneurysm. The Perfectionist's crystalline surface began to crack, order shattering under the weight of infinite possibility. Humanity had just taught the galaxy its greatest lesson. True perfection lies in knowing when to embrace imperfection. The Perfectionist's death wasn't elegant. As its quantum matrix overloaded, trying to process an infinity of possibilities, the massive structure began to tear itself apart from within. Fissures of brilliant energy raced across its crystalline surface like lightning through diamond. All ships, clear the blast radius. Mitchell ordered, watching as the combined fleet scattered in genuine chaos. Rivera, what's happening to it? The quantum matrix, Rivera's voice held a note of awe. It's caught in a recursive loop. Every attempt to calculate a solution creates new variables to solve. It's literally thinking itself to death. The massive weapon's destruction painted space in impossible colors as reality itself seemed to bend around the failing quantum matrix. When it finally exploded, the blast rippled outward in perfectly symmetrical patterns, the Dominion's final testament to order, even in death. But Mitchell had no time to appreciate the irony. Status of the Dominion fleet. There, Chen paused, checking his readings twice. They're surrendering, sir. Not just here. Everywhere. We're getting reports from across the galaxy. The destruction of their ultimate weapon. It's broken something in their society. The main screen activated, showing High Commander Zixtal. The once proud alien scales had lost their luster, their perfect geometric patterns now irregular and dull. You have destroyed perfection itself. The translator rendered his musical speech. How? How can chaos triumph over order? Mitchell stood, facing the alien commander. Because the universe itself is chaos, Commander. Life is chaos. Evolution is chaos. Every star, every planet, every living thing exists because of random chance and adaptation. Your people tried to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. You were fighting reality itself. Then what hope is there? Zixtal's inner membranes flickered in distress. If perfection cannot bring peace, what can? Balance, Mitchell replied. The balance between order and chaos, structure and adaptation, planning and improvisation. That's what your people forgot over their 10,000 years of rule. That true strength comes from embracing both. A new signal cut through their conversation. Admiral Cooper's face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression grave. Captain, we got a situation. The Dominion's core worlds. Their young are rebelling. Mitchell turned back to Zixtal, seeing something new in the alien commander's posture. Fear, not of humanity, but for his people. Your younger generation, Mitchell said slowly. They've been watching, haven't they? Learning from every battle. Not just our tactics, but our philosophy. They question everything now, Zixtal admitted. Our traditions, our pursuit of perfection, our very way of life. The Dominion is falling not to your weapons, but to your ideas. The tactical display updated, showing widespread unrest across Dominion space. Young Zarkacs were dismantling the geometric patterns of their cities, introducing organic curves and random elements into their architecture. Their crystalline technology was being modified, imperfections deliberately introduced to create new possibilities. Your people aren't dying, Mitchell realized. They're evolving. Finally, after 10,000 years of stasis, they're adapting, growing, changing. And what would you have us become? Zixtal demanded. Mitchell gestured to his bridge crew, to the Allied fleet outside, to the galaxy itself. Partners, equals, part of the great chaos that is life itself. Your people have so much to teach about order and precision. And we, all of us, have much to share about the beauty of imperfection. The alien commander was silent for a long moment, his scales shifting through patterns never before seen in his species. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps that is the true perfection we have sought all along. Not in imposing order, but in finding harmony with chaos itself. As the words were translated, Mitchell felt the weight of history shifting. The galaxy's greatest empire hadn't been destroyed. It had been transformed. And humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from their weapons or tactics, but from showing an ancient species how to embrace change itself. The age of perfect order was ending. The age of beautiful chaos was about to begin. 6 months after the fall of the Perfectionist, Captain Mitchell stood at a viewport in the newly established Galactic Cooperation Center, watching ships of all shapes and sizes navigate the space around what had once been the Dominion's capital world. The rigid geometric patterns of Zarkak's architecture now flowed with organic curves, crystal structures interwoven with living materials from a dozen species. Still admiring your handiwork, Captain. Admiral Cooper approached, his dress uniform adorned with the new insignia of the Interstellar Coalition. Not mine, Mitchell replied, gesturing to a passing ship, a Zarkak's cruiser whose crystalline hull now pulsed with living energy, a fusion of their traditional technology with Vextal biological engineering. Theirs. They're evolving faster than anyone could have predicted. Ironic, Cooper chuckled. The species that spent 10,000 years resisting change is now leading the galaxy in innovation. A gentle chime announced the arrival of High Commander, now Ambassador, Zixtal. His scales shifted in patterns that would have been considered heretical mere months ago, displaying emotions freely rather than suppressing them behind rigid control. The latest reports from our education exchange program, Zixtal announced, his translator now perfectly modulated to convey the nuances of his musical speech. Over 10,000 young Zarkaks have enrolled in Earth universities, and twice that number of human students have applied to study crystal engineering in our academies. Mitchell smiled, remembering the early days after the war when such cooperation seemed impossible. How are they adapting to each other? Chaos and order, learning to dance. Zixtal's scales rippled with amusement. Your students have taught us that imperfection can be a path to discovery, and ours have shown yours that even in chaos, patterns can emerge naturally, without being forced. A commotion at the far end of the chamber drew their attention. Rivera, now Captain Rivera of the U.S. Adaptation, was demonstrating a new technology to a group of mixed-species engineers. A holographic display showed crystal matrices reconfiguring themselves in response to random quantum fluctuations, creating systems that were both structured and adaptable. The next generation of ships, Cooper explained, noting Mitchell's interest. Hulls that can reorganize their crystal structure in combat, switching between order and chaos as needed. The perfect fusion of both philosophies. Not perfect, Mitchell corrected with a smile. Better than perfect. Adaptive. Living. Zixtal's scales shifted to a pattern that indicated deep thought. We have a saying now, among our young. Perfection is the enemy of evolution. Strange, to think we had to lose an empire to gain wisdom. You didn't lose an empire, Mitchell replied. You transformed it into something greater. The Dominion tried to conquer the galaxy. The Coalition is helping it grow. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent signal. The holographic display shifted to show a massive anomaly at the galaxy's edge. an unknown phenomenon that defied both ordered and chaotic analysis. First contact, Cooper announced. Something completely new. The Coalition Council is requesting the Nemesis lead the expedition. Mitchell looked at Sixtall, sharing a moment of understanding with his former enemy. Not just the Nemesis, he said. We'll take a mixed fleet. Humans, Zarkax, every species that wants to join. Let's show whatever's out there that the galaxy has learned to embrace both chaos and order. As they moved to the council chamber to plan the expedition, Mitchell caught a glimpse of his reflection in a crystal wall. Behind him, the images of hundreds of species were reflected, each unique, each contributing their own pattern to the great dance of existence. The galaxy had changed, and with it, every species that called it home. The Dominion had sought to impose perfect order on an imperfect universe. In their defeat, they had discovered something far more valuable: the ability to grow, to change, to evolve. And humanity, in teaching them this lesson, had gained something too. The understanding that true strength lies not in chaos or order alone, but in the wisdom to know when to embrace each. The story that began with a human warship entering Dominion space had become something greater, a testament to the power of adaptation, the beauty of imperfection, and the endless possibilities that arise when different paths converge. The next chapter of galactic history was about to begin, and this time, every species would write it together.